up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Trust Your Board podcast. My name's Stephen Wright, joined as always by Mr. William Monroe. Will, how you doing, man?
Steve, doing good over here, man. Big Flyers win, keeping it alive here for the playoffs. We got a game 6.
Yeah, we do. We do. It was it's been a stressful evening.
Yeah.
But time to unwind, do a mock draft. We got a Dynasty Superflex here for our last mock draft of the year. Decided that since it's the last one, we needed to, as I said pre-show, bring in the big guns as our last guest of the year. Returning to the show, Mr. Jacob Dunn. Jacob, how you doing, man?
Yes, sir, guys. I'm doing great. I had a blast that first episode I joined you guys with, and I am honored to be back on this show.
Yeah, we appreciate you joining, man. Hopefully, got a long-term partnership established here.
Yeah. And you guys are talking about how the Flyers pulled it off, and I'm stoked for you guys. I'm actually from Vegas, so I'm watching this Vegas Golden Knight game right now. It's 0-0 at the end of the first, but I'm not too worried about the Canucks here.
Yeah, was that 3-1?
Yep.
It's
3-1.
It's a big difference watching like East Coast hockey to West Coast hockey. Like if I turn and watch you guys, like everything's so fast.
Right.
It's just like it's more like Olympic style hockey where it's fast and just like really talent based. In the East, it's like slower. It's more grinded out, hitting people, and that happens. Like it flips back and forth. Every few years. If you would have went back probably 5 years ago, it was a complete opposite. But yeah, it's weird watching other teams play.
It is.
So let's do a quick reminder here, Jacob, for those that didn't listen to the previous podcast or know who you are, what kind of content you put out there, where can we find your work?
Yeah, so you can find me on Twitter at Ain't Done Yet, and Dunn is spelled Dunne. I am a fantasy football writer for Primetime Sports Talk. I also cover the Broncos for them as well. And I cover other fantasy sports on New Life Fantasy and Fantasy Six Pack. So, I cover baseball, basketball, and football, but mainly football. So you guys can find me on my Twitter, and you can also find me on those websites.
The man is all over the place. You are busy.
Yes, but it's a blessing, guys, for sure. I love it.
For sure. And as a reminder to all of you, you can follow us on Twitter at Trust Your Board. Will, you want to let everybody know where we're drafting from today?
Yeah, so we've got the Dynasty Superflex startup. I believe we're saying PDR draft. Jacob is going to be in the 2 spot.
Let's go.
We're on the 9 spot, and Stevie's got the 11.
Wonderful. So, gentlemen, you guys ready to get started?
Yeah, let's get it going.
Let's do this thing.
Cool. So it looks like with the 101, Lamar Jackson went off the board first. That puts you on the clock, Jake.
That's interesting because I just assumed that Patrick Mahomes would get picked there. So I am going to happily draft Patrick Mahomes. I debated for a second on getting Christian McCaffrey, but this is a Superflex league, and Patrick Mahomes is by far the best quarterback in the league and will be for the next 10 years. So I'm just going to lock him up and just roll with it. So here's my Patrick Mahomes pick here. And then after that went, of course, McCaffrey, then Barkley, Elliott, Michael Thomas, Deshaun Watson, which is interesting, but I like that pick a lot. And then Kamara, and then to you, Will.
All right, so if we just do a quick rundown, just the top 2 quarterbacks off the board, you got all the tight ends available, only Michael Thomas off the board, so you got Adams, Hill, Godwin, Hopkins, and those first 4 running backs off the board. Actually going to pivot a little bit to what Steve and I have said in the past about Dynasty startups here. With a few of our Dynasty leagues, there's been a lot of trade action and just seeing how players have gotten valued. I'm actually going to go with a running back here in the first round, and we're going to go with the rookie here in Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I think the upside's there, and the big thing with running backs, I think, is as Steve alluded to earlier, I don't know if that was here on the pod or just before, but it's those running backs that get close to their contract year. You just don't know what's going to happen. We saw the news with Alvin Kamara earlier.
Right.
Nixon a couple days ago, he just got his contract. But we don't know what's going to happen with those guys. So I'm going to grab a running back that I know is going to be on a high-powered offense for at least the next 4 to 5 years, hopefully longer.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not a short turn, so I should be able to get either a wide receiver or potentially even a quarterback here on the next turn. So don't lock in a running back. Hopefully build a team to win now, but if not, have an incredible trade chip that you can get a ton of first round picks and or young players for. So lock in here CEH, and after I go there, thank you. We got Kyler to you.
Stupid Team 10 messing up everything I wanted.
Did they snipe you?
Yeah, I was sitting here like, you know what? I've never started a Dynasty Superflex by going quarterback. I think I'm going to do it. And now it's like, okay, well, I guess I'll have to reach for somebody if I still want to do it.
Right.
Oh, man, that's stupid. But whatever. I'll do it anyway because you know what? People are going to do it in your leagues out there. So might as well play that game. I'll try something a little bit new. So first quarterback off the board for me is going to be Dak Prescott. Him and Kyler are neck and neck, but I mean, Dak is just littered with weapons around him. Not that Kyler's not, D-Hop, he's got the most elite weapon there with Hopkins, but, Dak's just got, wide receiver 1, 2, 3, potential solid tight end there as well. So he's just drowning in talent. So I don't see a world in which he is not successful. So I'll lock him in here as my first quarterback. We do have Derrick Henry go off the board. That rounds out the first round. To start the second, we got Dalvin Cook. So it's a bit of a reach. It's really a shame because we're looking at Adams and Hill, Godwin, Hopkins, Mixon with the new contract, Chubb, Josh Jacobs, a nice young running back. But I will stay true to what I thought I was going to do before the Kyler pick went in here. We got Russell Wilson, we got Wentz, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Baker Mayfield, Matt Stafford sitting here at the quarterback position. I have Russell Wilson far and ahead of everyone else here. Wentz in consideration, but Russ is still a tier above. So not too much to say. I know everyone's pretty much a fan of Russell Wilson. So just going to go ahead and lock him in here. Give me 2 quarterbacks off the board, and we will see what comes back to me after this long wait. Kind of dreading it, but we shall see.
Dak and Wilson.
Yeah, I got a stacked start at the quarterback position. I can ignore that position for a while here. We'll see see how it turns out. So Joe Mixon goes off the board. Will, you're on the clock.
Yeah, that was a great pick. I was totally going to go Russell if he was still there. I was going to be, kind of one of those 5, 6 quarterbacks, if any of them were there, hoping to get one at the turn here. But not getting one is a little bit of a bummer, but does mean that there's still valuable players at the running back and wide receiver position. Sanders, another rookie in JT, Chubb, Jacobs, still available at running back. But for me, kind of the wide receiver 2 on the year, and probably in Dynasty with Devontae Adams is still there, and I don't think I can pass him up.
I like it.
Yeah. Nice safer option to pair with CEH, who a guy that I think we're all confident in, but ultimately still hasn't suited up for a game yet, so there's still some risk there. So I'm happy to pair him with Devontae Adams and have some flexibility going forward. Obviously, we're going to lean quarterback, but nice to have one of each of the 2 kind of pivotal positions here that you start multiple players at. So we'll lock in Adams. Anybody that you hoping falls down to you there, Jacob?
I'm looking, and man, I'm really hoping that somehow Josh Jacobs will fall to me or Miles Sanders. And if they don't, then I think that I'll pull a Steve here and try to lock up 2 quarterbacks, see if Wentz falls to me if those 2 don't.
Let's see what happens here. I'll lock in Adams. After that goes DeAndre Hopkins, Nick Chubb, Tyreek Hill, Julio Jones, Chris Godwin, Amari Cooper. So wide receiver run there really helped you out.
Yeah.
You were looking running back. You definitely got pick of the litter.
Yeah. Yes. So all those players are available here. Josh Jacobs, Miles Sanders, and Carson Wentz. Do I want to just get my RB1 for the next 4 to 5 years or so? I think I am leaning that way, and I'm going to go with Josh Jacobs here. I really like, he's only 22 years old. He's going to be a bell cow running back for the Raiders for at least the next 4 to 5 years. So I think I'm happy with this pick here. I'm going to go with Josh Jacobs, and hopefully at the turn, when it comes back to me in 3 picks, if Miles Sanders is there, I'll jump for joy. If not, then I'll go with Carson Wentz most likely. So I'm going to lock in Jacobs here and see what happens. So we got Travis Kelce went off the board and Kenyon Drake.
Yeah, so you got both guys you want there.
Yes. So it's tough in a Superflex league. It's like, well, do I go with Wentz or do I go with Miles Sanders? Well, we all know that running back, I mean, at least for redraft purposes, you want to stack up those running backs because they dissipate quickly as far as the workhorse running backs. And in Dynasty, I mean, it's really no different. I mean, you can go after these rookies later, and, we definitely will, I'm sure. But I think I want to lock up Miles Sanders because he's 23 years old. He's looking at a workhorse load for a few years at least. So to pair my Josh Jacobs with another young stud running back, as well as Patrick Mahomes, I'm pretty thrilled with that. So I'm going to lock up Miles Sanders here. And once I locked him up, Josh Allen went after me, and then DJ Moore, George Kittle, Drew Brees. That's an interesting pick for Dynasty, but it is Superflex, and that gentleman probably wants to win now. I'm sure.
Yeah, wow. Yeah. I mean, you could win now with Carson Wentz too.
Right, I agree. 100%.
Wow.
And then Austin Eckler, and then back to you, Will.
Yes, this is where it gets interesting. Having still a couple teams behind me, and Steve has 2 quarterbacks, so I don't know that he would go one, but there's still 2 teams around him that I wouldn't be able to risk it for. Mm-hmm. So Wentz is probably the pick here, but had, maybe another player or 2 gotten there, may have been interesting. Okay. We got a lot of rookies, running backs on the board that I don't know that I'd be jumping to try to pair with Clyde over Wentz. But you do got Juju, Mike Evans, A.J. Brown, Kenny Galladay, Beckham, quite a few receivers that I think are pretty solid as well. So going to be pretty easy here. Lock in Carson Wentz, my first quarterback. Not really have to reach for a quarterback in the coming rounds. If you go 3-4 rounds without taking one, that that's going to have to be a position that you still have early on. So easy pick here. We're going to lock in Carson to pair with Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Devontae Adams.
I like it.
Okay, and got lucky. Todd Gurley went off the board there after Will. I was definitely worried about another snipe because I had Jonathan Taylor in my line of sight. So I'm somewhat surprised to see him get this far. Yeah. Given, he's a rookie, obviously, a ton of hype surrounding him.
A lot of hype.
Part of a good offense. So I kind of figured he would go sooner, but I'm not going to complain. That really helps me out quite a bit. I got what I think will be eventually a top tier running back, and I'm getting him in the 3rd round. So this pick's a no-brainer. It's the next one that's a little bit more concerning for me. So we'll see what happens at the turn, and then we'll make a decision from there. We got Kenny Galladay and Mike Evans. So that doesn't help me at all. So I'll talk through my thought process here. On the one side, I want J.K. Dobbins. I really like J.K. Dobbins. This is it would be kind of a rebuild of me and Will's actual dynasty team where we have Jonathan Taylor and J.K. Dobbins.
Yeah.
Dang.
If only we had Russell Wilson.
I know, right? Oh, man. But I'm thinking that way because that's, man, to go the 4th round and go double quarterback and then end up with Jonathan Taylor and Dobbins, it could put me in a position this year where, maybe I'm a playoff contender, but not a serious contender because Dobbins isn't producing or Jonathan Taylor is splitting. But, man, after this year, that team's going to be hot. But, looking at the wide receivers, you got A.J. Brown, you got Odell Beckham. Everyone knows I'm high on McLaurin and DJ Chark. So it's hard to pass all them up. But, I got a long wait, and there's still a lot of good wide receivers here. Like Chark or McLaurin could get back to me. Jerry Jeudy, Tyler Lockett. I'd be comfortable with all those guys. So I think I am going to go ahead and go J.K. Dobbins.
Dang, okay.
Maybe with my next 2 picks, I'll go wide receiver, and I'll just go quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and just establish a bit of a pattern.
Yeah.
The new trend, pattern drafting. So we'll see how it works out on the way back. But we're going to lock in Dobbins here, get another young what I think is going to be a stud running back here eventually.
Stud for sure.
Matt Ryan goes off the board at the 4:03. Will, you're on the clock.
Yeah, it's interesting. If Ryan was still there, he was someone I was considering doubling down on the quarterback position. There's still a few quarterbacks available. Still got Swift and Akers, which is interesting. I don't know. I want to pair two of those running backs. Take the Steve maneuver there and go with two of the rookies. But as he mentioned, there's just, I think, too many of the wide receivers available here. We've got Juju, A.J. Brown, Odell Beckham, DK Metcalf, Allen Robinson. There's a lot of options available. It's tough. I almost want to go a little riskier with Odell. Go with the upside play to pair with Adams. I do think the Browns bounce back this year. Just not sure. Then the more I look at it, you still have Juju, A.J. Brown, Odell, DK. There's still quite a few wide receivers that I do like. So I may actually pivot back and look at the running back position and see what happens if I do lock in two of those rookie running backs as well. If I do that, Swift is the pick for me over Akers. There's still some decent older running backs that I can grab later to kind of pair there to give Swift some time to develop. You still do have Andrews and Ertz, which is interesting, but I don't know that I want to go tight end this early. And Joe Burrow is also interesting as well, with Carson, Clyde, and Adams already there. But I think there's probably too many other quarterbacks that I wouldn't mind having at the position there. So I think I'm going to lock in Swift. See what happens if I also go with the two rookie running backs. Have that position locked down for the future there. And I'm going to see what gets back here. So we'll lock in Swift. After Swift, Odell goes, Leonard Fournette, Aaron Rodgers, Chris Carson, A.J. Brown, and Cam Akers.
Nice. Cam Akers was picked right before me. I wasn't necessarily considering him because I already got Sanders and Jacobs, but I was hoping that he would maybe go to the 5th round, but that's okay. I'm regretting a little bit not taking Wentz earlier instead of Sanders because now, like, the quarterback field, there isn't like that first or second tier. Like now we have Burrow, we have Mayfield, we have Stafford, we have Jones, we have Tua and Goff. Like, these are all solid quarterbacks for sure, but no dominant ones. So I am kind of jealous of Steve for taking those two quarterbacks, in the first and second round and just getting it over with and then going for the skill position players. I like that strategy. I'm still a fan of having Patrick Mahomes, Josh Jacobs, and Sanders. Now it's just like, okay, now, I guess I'll look at the wide receivers. Who's available? Juju Smith-Schuster. He's 23 years old. After one down year, nobody wants to draft him early anymore, which I think is silly. I think his talent is crazy, whether he stays in Pittsburgh or not. I'm definitely leaning towards Juju here. I do see that Mark Andrews is available, but I'd rather just wait on a tight end right now. So I'm going to go ahead and lock up my first wide receiver here at the end of the 4th round with Juju Smith-Schuster. Get a young team going.
Yeah, solid pick, man.
Thank you. Then we got Tom Brady and then Adam Thielen. So a couple older gentlemen at their position. So a few players dropped to me. One player that stands out to me being a huge Bronco fan and a writer is Cortland Sutton. He fell to me. He's 24 years old, 6'3", super fast. I like his potential pairing with Drew Lock. We've already seen that they have a strong chemistry. So I'm definitely debating Cortland Sutton here. Now, if this was a redraft league, it would be Allen Robinson all day. But he is 27 years old. I'd rather go with the younger Cortland Sutton here. But let's just look around. I mean, we still got Burrow available. He has a bunch of talent and promise, but that's not guaranteed. And for me, like in these early rounds, I want these guys to absolutely produce because I want to contend right away. But before I pick, I mean, guys, if you were in my position, would you pick Burrow here, or would you just stack up on these wide receivers and pick Sutton or A-Rob?
Tough.
For me, as a win, like a team that's building win now, it wouldn't be Burrow. I would be taking my shot on Matt Stafford, whether that's now or rolling the dice for him coming back in the 6th round. But I mean, you look at the other quarterbacks as a win now team. Burrow's a roll of the dice. Does Baker bounce back? What happens with Daniel Jones? When does Tua play? And then you get to Goff. I mean, Goff's a fine play.
True.
Yeah, I'd be looking at like Goff or Stafford as a contender compared to the others. That's me personally. I know a lot of people love Joe Burrow, and it definitely could have worked out. Daniel Jones and Baker could both take a step forward. The narratives are there, but I wouldn't want to roll the dice personally.
Yeah, especially with just like the solid number one having Mahomes, right? Like my team, I'm an Eagles fan, but I'll be the first to admit Wentz is a little shakier ground than Mahomes is. So I think I would feel having Wentz wanting to lock in at QB2 just in case there's injury there, but just to have a little more stability. Whereas you kind of got that QB position locked down, you can afford to have someone a little further down the QB depth chart at Superflex and load up on some of those other positions. But yeah, that makes sense. There's quite a few QBs available.
That's a great point. I think I will stand pat and hope that Goff or Stafford or someone falls to me later that is a proven quarterback that can help. Now I am debating on whether to take an upper echelon tight end Mark Andrews or Cortland Sutton at wideout. I'm leaning towards Mark Andrews because there's not a lot of elite tight ends left. Would you guys chastise me for that pick, or do you think that's a solid pick?
I definitely wouldn't, especially here in Dynasty League. He's someone that I would be targeting, especially even with my next pick. When you get those upper echelon guys, especially Mark Andrews and Kittle, you have such a long-term, base with them.
That's
I love Ertz. I do. I love Ertz and Kelsey, but that you have a smaller window with those guys. Yeah, right. I mean, Andrews, is just, stud, and we have a long, hopefully a very long career coming from him.
You talked me into it. I'm going to go ahead and lock a top 3 tight end here. He's 24 years old. I love it. And just hope that one of those other quarterbacks we said drops. So I'm going to go with Mark Andrews here.
And in that case, definitely not Mark Andrews. Anybody will mark it.
It's too late, man. I appreciate your advice, man. It helps me a lot.
Yeah, of course.
This is why we mock, right?
That's why we do it. You try it out.
That's right.
See what happens.
Love it. And then after that, there goes Kupp, Baker Mayfield, David Johnson, James Conner, Allen Robinson, Calvin Ridley, and back to Will.
All right. So just those top 3 tight ends off the board. Quarterback board still looks pretty much the same. I just had Baker go. The running back room, we got Melvin, David Montgomery, Kareem Hunt, Singletary, Lev Bell, Ronald Jones, Vaughn, Zach Moss. And then wide receiver, you still got DK Metcalf, Cortland Sutton, CeeDee Lamb, Terry McLaurin, DJ Chark, Jerry Jeudy. So quite a few receivers available. For me, there's a few quarterbacks that I still like. I think I probably could wait another round just based on the amount that I'm still okay with, given that Steve's already got 2, and then each of the team, one team behind me already has 2 as well. Imagine Team 12 probably takes 1, but not enough to make me reach for 1 here in this round. Ertz is interesting, but I don't think I can take him, given that I've only got 2 rookie running backs and a wide receiver. So we're looking at those 2 positions. Running back really comes down to Melvin and Kareem Hunt. Some more kind of guys that are, are going to get work. Obviously, both in somewhat timeshares, but more stabilized veteran running backs. And I know Steve and I are probably in the same boat when we're looking at running back position, given that we both got 2 rookies. And the wide receiver position, there's still quite a few. We've got DK, Cortland Sutton, Terry McLaurin, Chark, CeeDee Lamb. So I think running back is where I'm going to strike here, especially given that there's a few receivers and a few quarterbacks available that I'm, hoping that one of them or Ertz get back to me in the next round. So debating between Melvin Gordon and Kareem Hunt. I think I lean Hunt a little bit here. He's younger. I almost want to say more talented, but I don't know. Melvin has proven he's been very consistent over his career. They both are going to be in a little bit of timeshare, but Hunt maybe has a chance to get out of that after this year, where Melvin, is likely going to be paired with Lindsey for, is it this year, contract year, or has he got at least 2 more years there?
Gordon has 2 years.
Lindsey?
So Lindsey, this is his contract year. Yeah,
So,
you're right.
Yeah, so I guess he could come out of it as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. That's kind of the debate here, Melvin or Kareem Hunt. What do you think, Jacob? Obviously, Steve may have a little vested interest in this. Out of those two, given that we've got 2 rookie running backs, what's your thought there out of the 2 of them?
Yeah, so being a Broncos expert, I actually think that Phillip Lindsay is going to split work with him this year. So I'm actually kind of staying away from Melvin Gordon. Like you said, he could take over next year if the Broncos don't re-sign Phillip Lindsay, which I definitely do see them re-signing him somehow. So I like what you said earlier, Kareem Hunt has a chance to get out of that committee next year, and plus Hunt is 2 years younger than Gordon. And we already know that Hunt is a supreme talent. So I would actually lean Hunt
that's
here.
where I'm leaning as well. And especially with the talk that he may be used as a receiver, and we know that he has been able to do it with an elite running back in Chubb last year, whereas Melvin, he's always done it with a good backup with him, but we'll see in an offense that, don't have the most sturdy quarterback that he played with in Rivers. A lot of weapons there to feed, so we just don't know what's going to happen. Well, we've seen the Browns offense with a bad offensive line. Hopefully it gets better with a good offensive line. So we're going to lock in Hunt here, get a little more sturdy at the running back position, just in case Swift gets off to a bad start, or God forbid, Clyde isn't what we expect. We've got a solid running back to pair there. So we're going to lock in Kareem Hunt. Steve, after him goes Tyler Lockett. Is that what you're hoping? Is that messing up your plan? Hopefully, fingers crossed. What's going on?
No, I am one happy puppy. Pattern drafting is a thing, and I'm going to grab 2 wide receivers here. I'm going to challenge my friend here, Team 12, to grab 2 quarterbacks and join me in pattern drafting. So
here we go.
The tough part for me is, what 2 do I want? And the answer is probably DJ Chark and McLaurin, but I really like Sutton, and I really don't want Sutton to get back to Jacob. So
yeah,
I like him. That the issue with Sutton is the competition. He's got to deal with Jerry Jeudy. He's got to deal with Hamler. He's got 2 running backs there. They got 2 tight ends with Fant and Albert O, where DJ Chark has Chenault, who gets hurt a lot, and I guess Keelan Cole, who's getting some good camp reviews, but that's it. And McLaurin's the same way. Gandy Golden maybe turns into something, but they just lack competition. With that in mind, both of them have more iffy quarterback situations. I mean, not that Locke's proven, but he is, I think, a little bit more stable than the other 2. So it's a tough spot, but for me, I'm going to start with McLaurin, and then we'll see if Team 12 takes one of them and makes my decision a little bit easier. But we're going to start with McLaurin, and then hopefully grab a Sutton or a Chark here on the way back. So we'll lock in the pick at the 5-12. We got Burrow and Evan Ingram. Stupid Team 12. Ruining everything. Okay, man. Okay, that's fine. What I'm going to do, I'm going to go with Mr. DJ Chark, because there is a bit of a tiebreaker. I wasn't going to say anything, but then I remembered that Jacob drafted Mark Andrews. I wouldn't mind grabbing Noah Fant later. And I would be a little bit more hesitant to do it if I had Sutton on the team. Not that that's a deal killer by any stretch of the imagination. Kelsey and Tyreek Hill is a fantastic combo. George Kittle and like Debo would be great. Mark Andrews and Hollywood, no problem with that. But, we haven't seen it from Locke. We haven't seen much from Locke. And I don't want two pass catching weapons with a quarterback that's really unproven. That's really what it comes down to. So that's what I'm going to use to eliminate Sutton. We're going to go ahead and draft Mr. DJ Chark. I'm going to have to stare at the board and figure out how I can keep my pattern drafting alive after this. But we will see. So we'll lock him in. The pick after me was DK Metcalf. Will, you're back on the clock.
It made it a little easy for me there, Team 10. I didn't think he was going to take DK Metcalf just because he already had Lockett. I guess the CPU doesn't really care too much about rostering the same team. But
Seattle homer for sure.
That must be what it is. 12th man. That's why he was in Team 12.
Yeah, right. Nice.
So the receivers that I was interested in, Terry, Chark, and Metcalf went. So it makes it a little easier. I was looking at the wide receiver position or just locking in the second quarterback in Matt Stafford. I think he's kind of a cut above the rest here. And as much as I do like Sutton, I would rather lock in the quarterback there. I'm a little higher on those three receivers that went. And it keeps it open for some of the other positional players that they have there. I don't like to double up on too many positions. And Denver has a lot of nice, good players in Sutton, but they got a couple lottery tickets that you could take a little later as well. So we're going to lock in Matt Stafford, get that second quarterback that I think is a little sturdier to pair with Wentz. Still would rather get another wide receiver here 6 rounds in, but given that I've got Adams, I think I've got a solid base there, and we know that that's the deepest position here in the draft. So interested to see what happens with the wide receiver position here in the 7th round coming up next, but we'll lock in Stafford first here. So after Stafford, we got Big Ben, Keenan Allen, Mark Ingram, Daniel Jones, Melvin Gordon, and Raheem Mostert.
Man, I really wanted Ingram, and I did not think he was going to go in the 6th round. I thought he was going to be like a 8th, 9th, 10th round running back. That sucks.
Yeah, and you especially wanted him just because you had Dobbins, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. I get that.
Shame.
Well, thankfully, Cortland Sutton still is dropping to me, and all of your guys' points.
I blame Will. That's on you, man. That's Will's fault. You needed a wide receiver. You should have taken Sutton. What are you doing?
What it is.
It is what it is. I get it. Yeah, but I appreciate it. Because I am going to take Sutton here. But Steve, I really like that back-to-back McLaurin and Shark pick. I love that duo. Like, I'm really trying to get that duo in my redraft leagues. I have it in one league and I love it. And I just think that's a promising young duo for years to come because they're both super young too.
Yeah, if they can hit this year, like I got overall a really young team. I mean, with Taylor, Dobbins, McLaurin, and Chark, I'm very young, but still able to compete this year. So I agree. This is the benefits of #pattern drafting.
That's right. Yeah, and as far as my team, I've been able to keep everyone at 24 or younger, and I'm not going to break that pattern here. I'm going to take 24-year-old Cortland Sutton here as my second wide receiver next to Juju and see what happens as it comes back to me. I'll probably see what's available at quarterback. Then after I took Sutton, Devontae Parker went and Le'Veon Bell went. So at quarterback, I could risk it and take more skill position players. I mean, the only ones I need on my starting roster, all I need is a flex and a super flex next. So I think I am just going to take a quarterback here. And the top quarterbacks that I'm thinking of taking here, since I do want to compete, I'm leaning Goff here. He's only 25 years old. He has an offensive mastermind in Sean McVay, who is constantly putting in weapons for him and a game plan to, to highlight his strengths. Tua is tempting, but like I said, I want to compete this year. So I believe I will just lock in my Superflex here and take Jared Goff.
Very nice. I know Steve and I are
like
both
that.
high on Goff as a second quarterback Superflex or a late, redraft quarterback for sure.
Same. Nice. It makes me feel good then. I made the right pick. And then after Goff, we got Singletary, Robert Woods, and there goes Tua. Yep. David Montgomery, Stephon Diggs, and Ronald Jones. Back to you, Will.
Robert Woods, good pick. I was really hoping he was going to fall there. I don't even know how old he is off the top of my head. He's got to be probably close to 30, but
I think he's like 28 or something.
Yeah, more than happy to have him for 2 or 3 years coming up here.
Oh, yeah.
So we've got a few wide receivers on the board that are interesting. We got Judy and Lamb, a couple of rookies. Debo, injured, but we'll see. He should be healthy within a couple weeks. Tyler Boyd. Still got Ertz there, which is an interesting option for me as well. Running back, you got Vaughn, Moss, Gibson. Really not looking there. So it's probably going to be wide receiver or tight end here, and then likely wide receiver, or if I don't go tight end, the next round tight end. If we look behind me, one team has a tight end. I don't know that Steve would go him unless he's going to try to go tight end here. Well, who knows if he's going to keep the trend going. So it's, do I strike at the wide receiver I want here, or do I try to lock in a tight end and Ertz to pair with Wentz, and then grab one of the receivers that end up being available in the next round? And with Ertz, he is a little older, but he does have contract negotiations going on right now too. So, I think the good chance that he is re-signed and is here for a little while. And I think this is a time that I'm not, I'm happy to grab him here. He's kind of in that tier with the top few and kind of with Mark Andrews. And Mark Andrews went a few rounds earlier. Obviously, he's got a much longer career ahead of him. But for this year and even for the next few years, I think Ertz has that top 5 potential still there. So I'm going to lock in Ertz and see which of the wide receivers gets back to me here to pick another wide receiver on the team. So we'll lock in Ertz at tight end. And Justin Jefferson goes as well. Steve, you're up.
You're a jerk.
You are. They ruined your double tight end.
Absolute. Yeah, it was going to be Ertz and then Fant for the pattern drafting. Let's and go. Now it's like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do?
I'm just here to ruin your day, Steve. Making sure Jacob's draft is going pleasantly, but your draft is going as poor as possible.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Of course.
Not cool. Not cool. But I adapt.
That's right.
And we'll be fine. So I will continue pattern drafting. We're going to go with Deebo Samuel. I do worry a little bit about the injury, but, with McLaurin and with Chark already on the team, I'm not feeling pressed that I have to play him within the first few weeks. So more of I don't want to say long-term play because he'll be fine this year, but, a longer-term play as far as this year is concerned. Where I'm going to wait a few weeks before I start him. Unless he goes out like week 1 and lights it up. I'm going to need to see a couple weeks before I trust that he's fully healed. So
much easier to take in Dynasty as well rather than redraft.
For sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. We had Ryan Tannehill go off the board at the 712. The 801 was T.Y. Hilton. So going with some pattern drafting, we got Lamb, Judy, Boyd, Gallup, Jalen Reagor, Landry, Hollywood Brown, Christian Kirk. So a lot of solid options, a lot of people that I like. I don't really want Lamb and Judy. That sounds terrible. I really need to add some sort of veteran presence. I mean, Debo I'm keeping with this really young team. And I feel like I should get somebody more established like a Tyler Boyd. But it's also hard to pass up a Gallup or a Reagor who I really like. and I know Will likes, and I kind of want to take away from Will because he took my Earth's play, but kind of thinking you're not going to go for him because you already got 2 Eagles. So we're going to let that go. Hollywood's another one I kind of like, but also really young. So I think I'm going to go with Gallup. He's still young. He's been in the league a little bit longer than the rest of this team, but I think he's being overlooked this year. I think he's in for another fine year. What happens after this year, I think is a little bit more up in the air, and that's kind of worrisome. But I'm playing to win now, and he's going to help me win now. So we'll go ahead and we will lock in Mr. Gallup. After that pick, we have off the board Sony Michel at the 8:03, and then you're on the clock, Will.
Works perfectly. A guy that I was hoping would be there is still there. You mentioned him, the wide receiver position. But I'll give a quick rundown of everything else before I get to that. So we've got quarterbacks, Darnold, Locke, Garoppolo, Newton, Cousins. Tight ends, more than we were expecting with Steve not doubling down the position. We got Waller, Henry, Hawkinson, Fant, Gesicki. More than enough, Steve, for you to double down in the next round. So I think you'll be okay.
I can do it. I'm a madman. I'll pull it off.
Running back, pretty much the same guys that we talked about earlier. Vaughn, Moss, Gibson, Carry-on, Lindsey. But at wide receiver, still got the rookies there, CeeDee Lamb and Judy. Tough to pass them up, but I'm going to go with someone that's a little more veteran than them. That's going to be Hollywood Brown. I think he pairs really well with a steady veteran, Devontae Adams. And I know I'll be able to get another veteran, as my wide receiver 3, in a round or 2 here. Tough to pass on, the safety of Boyd or the upside of one of those 2 rookie receivers. But I know there's plenty of other rookies I'll be able to take my shot on eventually. But we know what we have in Hollywood, and we know he has a great quarterback going forward. So pretty easy pick for me, pairing Hollywood with Devontae Adams as my wide receiver 2. I'm really locking my starting lineup. It's weird with Superflex. You're getting your starting lineup locked before your bench most often, but contrary to most teams where you're getting a ton of running backs and receivers and not worrying about a couple positions and getting your quarterback or tight end later, here get my full position locked in with Hollywood Brown. So after Hollywood, we have AJ Green, Kerryon Johnson, Sam Darnold, Jordan Howard, Tyler Boyd, CeeDee Lamb. It sounds like one of them was someone that you were hoping for, Jake.
Yeah, so you guys both of you guys touched up on him, Tyler Boyd. I mean, he is the perfect option of safety and young, he's only 25 years old, and that you're going to get production out of him week to week basis. So I was really hoping that he would fall to me there as my flex.
25 is a little old for your team, though, isn't it?
Actually, Goff just
ruined that.
Goff's 25, so I raised the bar there
just slightly.
Yeah,
slightly, right? So, shoot. Well, if it's not Boyd, then I'm gonna. So, who is available right now? I'm looking at who can be a solid flex for me. That's a good mix of young and can contribute this year. I see wide receiver. I'm very tempted to grab Jerry Jeudy here because I do think in a PPR league, he can still contribute to my team at least, 8 to 12 points a game. I think he's going to be a reliable receiver for Locke, especially to start this season. Like, he's been having an amazing training camp, and they just have this connection that's insane. So I really like what I see out of Jeudy and Locke this preseason, or not the preseason, but in training camp, as close to preseason as we can get. So I'm very tempted to get Jeudy here. I need a solid flex. There's not many running backs that I want to take here. There's like Keyshawn Vaughn, there's Phillip Lindsay, there's Antonio Gibson, there's Zach Moss. And I think I can wait on those type of running backs either in the next round or the round after. I'm not too worried about that since I have Miles Sanders and Josh Jacobs. I think I am going to grab Jerry Jeudy here and just bank on him eventually becoming a wide receiver 1. I mean, I already have Sutton, so that kind of gives me a handcuff somewhat. And if Jeudy takes over number 1 role, then hey, I have the Broncos number 1 wide receiver no matter what. So I'm going to roll with Jerry Jeudy here. And then after that, Ruggs was picked, and then Zach Moss. And then it's back to me. So I have my full roster here. I have Mahomes, Josh Jacobs, Miles Sanders, Smith-Schuster, Sutton, Mark Andrews, Jerry Jeudy, and Jared Goff. Now let's see some running backs that are available. I'm a fan that Philip Lindsay's there. He is 26 years old. He's going into a contract year. I'm not really sure what next year is going to look like for him, so I'm going to keep on searching. Jarvis Landry's there, Jalen Reagor's there, Christian Kirk, which is actually I like that pick. Christian Kirk as one of my other bench players. But quarterback, Drew Lock's there. He's staring at me. I already have 2 Broncos, and y'all are just going to think I'm a Bronco homer, and that's fair. But I think I just want to lock in my third quarterback here and just focus on the skill position players other than quarterback for the rest of the draft. So I'm going to lock in Drew Lock here, and you guys can call me a homer all you want.
Fair enough. That's why I've been trying to draft Denver players, man. I know you're looking to scoop them up. Trying to mess with your game plan a little bit.
Hey, it's smart to know the other owners in your league. Like if you do a draft with, a bunch of strangers, then you don't really have that advantage of knowing their tendencies and who they want to pick. So you always want to try to get in a league with people that you know, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, 100%.
Or get to know the people in your league if you don't know them.
Right. Exactly. So after Locke, Jarvis Landry, Deontay Johnson, Brandon Cooks, Kirk Cousins, Christian Kirk, that's a nice pick, and then Julian Edelman. And then back to you, Will.
All right. So quick rundown. I've got Carson Wentz and Stafford at quarterback, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Swift, and Hunt at running back. We've got Devontae Adams and Marquise Brown at wide receiver, and then Zach Ertz at tight end. So really probably not looking tight end for a while, maybe going with, a younger guy much later. Quarterback at some point, but don't feel the need to lock one in just yet. So probably going to be looking at running back, given that I'm a little more unstable there, and wide receiver because I don't have a ton of depth there. So before I even kind of look at the board, I'll usually will take a look at who's behind me here. So Team 10 only has 3 running backs, 3 receivers. So they're kind of even. Steve's got 4 and 2, so I'd imagine he maybe goes running back with one of the next 2. And then Team 12 only has 2 running backs as well with 3 receivers. So given that's the case, we'll probably lean the running back position, but we'll see what's available, what we like. You got Jalen Reagor on the board, someone that Steve and I are both really high on. Another rookie in Pittman, T. Higgins, guy that Steve apparently loves, and Mecole Hardman, as he took him in our redraft league.
Get out of here.
Mike Williams is interesting. N'Keal Harry's a nice, interesting shot. Fuller, Slayton, Ayuk. So quite a few wide receivers available that I wouldn't mind grabbing. There's some younger kind of depth pieces. So I feel like I want to look more to the running back position here, given that I think Steve probably is going to go running back, and I would like to get another guy that I know is going to play. So if we look at the top available per Fantasy Pros Draft Wizard here, we got Keyshawn Vaughn, Antonio Gibson, Philip Lindsay, Alexander Madison, Marlon Mack, Tony Pollard, AJ Dillon, Tariq Cohen, Burrita. So quite a few decent options available there. Lindsay's one that sticks out to me above the rest that I think is definitely going to get work. Gibson probably will, but we just don't know how it's going to shake out. Whereas I think Lindsay, it's a 2-man race there, and I think they both get work. Madison's interesting as well. Marlon Mack probably would be fun just because I imagine Steve wants to go with him here to get a little insurance for his running backs. Pollard, for me, Madison is enticing to get another guy that has a lot of upside, but I want to get a guy that's going to get work, help me with this year. So I'm going to go with Lindsay and then see which receivers get back here. Gibson's enticing as well, and my hunch is Steve will try to go with him in one of his next 2 picks. But I gotta, as much as I love to try to screw Steve over, I have to make sure I focus on building my own team and not really just ruining Steve's teams here. So we're going to go with Philip Lindsay. and see what gets back to Stevie here after Lindsay goes. Will Fuller to you, Steve. Are we going double running back?
We are, yeah. It's a tougher decision. So, like, yeah, I do want Gibson. I don't know if like he really fits with the team because he's more of a roll of the dice, and I don't really need a roll of the dice. Lindsay popped in my head. I've been staying clear of the Denver running back situation, but he was somewhat interesting.
Yeah.
Mac is interesting with Taylor. I do feel like I could run into a situation where I could start both of them, but I don't know. It's just it seems boring to me. And then, falling down the board a little bit, Matt Burrita I've always been a big fan of and am somewhat comfortable with. So what I think I'm going to do here is roll the dice, as I tend to do, and I'm going to go with Gibson, take the nice big upside shot
Dang.
on Mr. Gibson, and then hopefully get Burrita on the turn. Yeah, and I will. So Tariq Cohen goes off at the end of the 9th, and then Jimmy G at the beginning of the 10th. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to lock in Burrita, I guess.
I'm very confident there, Steve.
It's just a reach. I feel like he could get back to me. So that's kind of where the hesitation's coming from. But, I'm practically on the turn. Like, if I want my guy, I got to reach for him a little bit. So we're going to lock him in. I will say, guys, we're getting up on time. So we'll make this round our last round, and then we'll give a quick rundown of our teams.
Sounds good.
Which is a shame because I never got to do double tight ends. That's Will's fault, really. But
you're welcome, everyone. No one really wanted to see two of Steve's tight ends.
Everyone wanted to see pattern drafting. What are you talking about? Then we had Marlon Mack go off the board right before you, Will. I implore you to take Noah Fant before Jacob does. Please.
He's got
take
Fant.
Fant.
So we'll see if he goes with one here.
Right.
Looking back at the wide receiver position, still having Madison there is interesting. Be someone I'd be looking at. There's, really not a ton of good running backs available. We've got 4, and I could probably take some shots on guys, but Madison is definitely a stash and trade bait for the Cook owner as well. But I don't think I can pass on Jalen Reagor here. I've only got 2 wide receivers, so obviously this is more of a long-term upside shot, and I'd be looking to get another 1 or 2 safer guys down the road here, but don't think I can pass on the upside of a Reagor, even though I've got Winston Ertz. I don't think it's that pivotal, A, because I think they're the 2 best passing weapons in the game outside of Jackson, who probably isn't there for too long. And B, we don't really know how long Ertz is going to be there. We hope he's there for a while, but I think Reagor and Ertz are guys that you can kind of play together, complement each other well. Reagor kind of being a yard after catch and deep guy, whereas Ertz is more of a PPR touchdown weapon. So I think it's a good pairing. So we're going to lock in Reagor, and kind of the philosophy here would be at some point grab another quarterback. Much later grab another tight end or 2. But really keep building at the running back, wide receiver position. Some likely veterans at those spots as we go forward here. So we'll go with Reagor, and after Mr. Jalen Reagor, we go with Mike Williams, Mecole Hardman, Keyshawn Vaughn, James White, and Marvin Jones.
Very good. Yeah, I was strongly considering Reagor with my next pick, and just and just like keep up with that Judy and the Reagor, and then
get the whole draft class.
Exactly, because this is a strong draft class.
Yeah. Hey, at least a couple of them pan out, so you should have at least 3 studs.
Right, exactly. So, right now, since this is our last round, I already have 3 quarterbacks. I would just be looking, to just stack my running backs and wide receivers as much as I can. If we were continuing with this draft, I might just go conservative, and just, and just draft like a Darius Slayton or something like that, like a young wideout that has a lot of potential. He's like a speedster, yet, we're not 100% sold on him, or at least I'm not, but I do think that he can have a big year. So I'm just going to go ahead and lock in that pick. Actually, I'll just go with Darius Slayton here.
I was considering him with Rager. I think he's, while he doesn't have a ton of draft capital in him, he proved it that he can play in the league last year, and I do think they, likely are going to go with him as the receiver going forward.
Right. I 100% agree, and that the Giants defense, it's it's pretty suspect there.
Yeah.
So I can definitely see them trying to catch up in every game, enter Slayton. So I might as well just get that depth piece here and just grab Darius Slayton here to pair. And then there you go. And then to end that round is Alexander Madison.
Awesome. So let's go ahead, run down our teams, give some quick opinions here. Jacob, we'll start with you drafting out of the 2 spot.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Steve. Yeah. So out of the 2 spot, I went ahead and drafted Patrick Big Show Mahomes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
he just got engaged today. I saw as well. He said they had their ring ceremony, so he got his Super Bowl ring and he got engaged.
Ah, cool.
Man, he is just blinging. I mean, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So he's feeling good. He's ready for a huge season. He's ready to dominate and take over the NFL. So, I mean, I really like him as my first pick. And then, to get young stud running backs back to back, Josh Jacobs and Miles Sanders, before the running back field kind of dried up and you're taking shots on, long shot rookies in a couple years. I really like that pairing of Josh Jacobs and Miles Sanders at age 23. And then I got Smith-Schuster, Cortland Sutton, Mark Andrews, and then to round out my flex and super flex is Jerry Jeudy and Jared Goff. And then, as a backup insurance and somewhat of a flyer quarterback pick is Drew Lock. I know that was somewhat of a homer pick, but if he hits and he has all these weapons, he could really turn into a bona fide quarterback 1 for years to come.
Yeah.
I know that's a little bit of a risk, but at that part of the draft, might as well, right?
I mean, you got a solid receiving core there as well, so.
Thank you, sir. Yes, and then I got Jerry Jeudy there as well. So, I mean, I really like it. I really like it for the now, and I like it for the future as well, which is what I really try to do. I try to compete this year while keeping my eye on the next 3 years, and I think I did pretty well here for the most part.
Awesome. Will, how about we turn to you?
Yeah, so we got Carson Wentz at quarterback, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, DeAndre Swift, Kareem Hunt, and Phillip Lindsay at the running back position. And then, Carson Wentz and Matt Stafford at quarterback. Devontae Adams, Hollywood Brown, and Jalen Reagor at wide receiver, and then Zach Ertz at tight end. Pretty happy with the team so far. I definitely need to get a little bit more depth and probably some youth at wide receiver. And then, maybe some guys that can give me some, just some carries, some targets at the running back position. We'll get a third quarterback, but it doesn't necessarily have to be too young, given the 2 quarterbacks I have, and maybe a veteran and a young tight end to pair there. But it depends on how deep your roster is. So I'm pretty happy with the team here. Definitely think I can compete now, but I've got a lot of good, nice trade chips. And if needed, DeAndre Swift, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Reagor. We've got some good guys to be able to go out and make a move for, a stud current running back if needed as well. So pretty happy with the team. Steve, what do you think about your strategy that you have going here?
As stupid as it is, and very frustrating at times, I kind of like the team.
Yeah.
So we got Dak Prescott and then Russell Wilson. Then we went Jonathan Taylor, J.K. Dobbins, Terry McLaurin and DJ Chark, Deebo Samuel, Michael Gallup, and then Antonio Gibson, Matt Burrita. Overall, I really like it. I'm set at quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
I have, I mentioned earlier that the running back situation where, maybe they cost me, the championship this year because they're both rookies and not producing, but long term, they should both be studs.
Definitely.
And then, at the wide receiver position, tons of youth, but youth that is proven and
right.
As proven as a year of success can be, but they're not like a CeeDee Lamb or a Jerry Jeudy or someone like that who we haven't seen anything from. These are guys have produced at a high level already. So happy with that. Glad to take a shot on somebody like Antonio Gibson, and then getting that Burrita some depth that could turn into a key depth piece if Jordan Howard were to go down, or if Burrita just flat out takes the job. As far as the strategy goes, it definitely is frustrating with like the lack of flexibility. But honestly, like getting back to our next pick, picking like Cam and David Carr or Minshew to give me 4 quarterbacks wouldn't be the worst thing. Mm-hmm. And then tight end feels so deep that I could take 2 tight ends with the following 2 picks after that. Maybe land a Hurst and a Jonnu, or a Higbee and a Herndon or something like that. And, at that point, I mean, eventually the strategy has to break down. So at some point you need the flexibility, and there's just not going to be running backs there to take 2 of them back to back. Right. So eventually it's going to break down. But, for now and my next 4 picks, I think it could have worked out. Honestly, I mean, obviously, Dynasty Superflex only. But, it was interesting. So that's going to take care of the mock. Do some quick reminders here. Jacob, where can we find you?
Yes, you can find me on Twitter at Ain't Done Yet, and Dunn is spelled Dunne. I would love for you guys to follow me. I follow back. You can follow all the work that I do on Primetime Sports Talk, Fantasy Six Pack, and New Life Fantasy. I will definitely have the weekly rankings for the fantasy football season coming up. So be on the lookout for that. And gentlemen, thank you guys so much for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for joining us and closing out the mock season. I'm sure we'll get together next mock season and put together some more magic.
We absolutely will. Absolutely.
I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, with that said, it's going to wrap up this episode. Remember, folks, trust your board.